The mahogany conference table seemed to stretch endlessly before me as I sat listening to the will reading. Michael, my older brother, lounged in our father's old chair at the head of the table, already playing the role of CEO before the papers were even signed. And to my daughter, Catherine, the lawyer Reed, adjusting his glasses, I leave the marketing division of Chen Industries, along with my sincere hopes that she will continue to grow it as she has these past 5 years. I kept my face carefully neutral, though my hands clenched in my lap. 5 years of expanding the marketing division into a powerhouse that generated 40% of the company's revenue, and this was my inheritance. And to my son, Michael, the lawyer continued, I leave controlling interest in Chen Industries, including all assets, properties, and patents, with full executive authority effective immediately. Michael's smile widened. He'd been practicing that smile since we were kids, the one that said, I win, without saying a word. My name is Catherine Chen, and at 34, I thought I understood family dynamics. But watching my brother take control of everything our father had built, everything I'd helped grow, I realized I'd underestimated just how far sibling rivalry could go. If there are no questions, the lawyer said, gathering his papers, I'll file these with the court today. Actually, I said, speaking for the first time since the reading began, I'd like to see the original will. The one from before Dad's revision. Michael's smile flickered slightly. That's irrelevant, Cat. This is the current will. But the lawyer was already pulling out another document. It's within Ms. Chen's rights to review the previous version. I took the old will, dated just 2 weeks before our father's death, before Michael had somehow convinced him to change everything during those final morphine haze days. Thank you, I said, scanning the pages I'd already memorized. I'd like copies of both versions, please. Planning to contest? Michael asked, his tone sharp despite his maintained smile. I met his gaze steadily. Just being thorough. Dad taught us that, remember? What Michael didn't know was that our father had taught me more than just business thoroughness. He taught me to plan ahead, to see the bigger picture, and to always keep an ace up my sleeve. The drive back to my office in the marketing division was tense with memories. Every corner of Chen Industries held echoes of my father, his vision, his integrity, his belief in building something that would last. Sarah, my assistant and closest friend, was waiting in my office. How bad was it? Exactly as we expected, I said, setting down my briefcase. Michael gets everything except marketing. She frowned. But your father promised. He always said you chair leadership. He did. Until Michael got to him at the end. I pulled out my laptop, typing in a complex password. But Dad wasn't as out of it as Michael thought. Remember that project he had me working on last year? The one Michael knew nothing about. Sarah's eyes widened. Project Phoenix? I nodded, opening an encrypted folder. Look at this. The screen showed a series of patents, groundbreaking technology that would revolutionize our industry. Patents that weren't listed in either version of the will because they weren't technically part of Chen Industries. Your father transferred these to you personally, Sarah breathed, scrolling through the documents. Before he got sick. And here's the best part, I said, pulling up another file. The marketing division he left me? It's not just marketing anymore. 3 months ago, Dad restructured it as an independent subsidiary, with its own board, its own assets, and full rights to develop these patents. Does Michael know? I thought about my brother's smug smile during the will reading. No, he never paid attention to the boring administrative details. He just saw the marketing division as my little pet project. Sarah sat back, a slow smile spreading across her face. So while he thinks he's won everything, he's actually given me exactly what I need to build something bigger. I closed the laptop carefully. But first, we need to understand exactly what he did to make Dad change that will. The next few weeks were a careful dance of investigation and pretense. I played the part of the dutiful sister, attending board meetings where Michael made sweeping changes to our father's carefully built company. I watched as he installed his own people in key positions, pushed out longtime employees, and started dismantling the ethical guidelines our father had established. But all the while, I was gathering evidence. Security footage from the hospital during Dad's final days. Witness statements from nurses who'd seen Michael pressuring our father when he was heavily medicated. And most importantly, documentation of the systematic way Michael had been undermining the company for years, setting himself up to take control. Look at this, Sarah said one evening, pointing to a series of financial transactions. He's been funneling company resources into his own projects for years. Shell companies, hidden accounts. I studied the numbers, feeling a familiar ache in my chest. Dad knew. That's why he set all this up. He knew Michael would try to take everything. But why not just stop him? Cut him out completely. I thought about my father's face the last time we really talked, 3 days before Michael showed up with a new will, because he was trying to protect both his children in his own way. He gave Michael the company he thought he wanted, and gave me the tools to build something better. A knock at my office door made us both jump. Lisa from accounting stood there, looking nervous. "Ms. Chen, there's something you need to see." She handed me a flash drive with trembling hands. "I found these records. Mr. Michael asked me to clean up some old accounts, but this isn't right." The drive contained proof of something even worse than we'd suspected. Michael hadn't just been stealing from the company. He'd been actively sabotaging projects, ensuring that only his initiatives succeeded while others mysteriously failed. "How long has this been going on?" I asked quietly. "Years," Lisa whispered. "Since before your father got sick." I think that's why he got sick. The stress of discovering what Michael was doing. The pieces clicked into place. Dad's sudden decline, his mysterious symptoms that had baffled the doctors. The way Michael had insisted on controlling his medical care at the end. "Thank you, Lisa," I said, securing the flash drive in my safe. "I know how risky it was to bring this to me." She straightened her shoulders. "Your father was good to all of us. He deserved better than this." That night, as I sat in my father's old study, the one room Michael hadn't dared change yet, I found one final message. It was hidden in an old photo album, tucked behind a picture of our whole family from happier days. "Catherine," the note read in my father's shaky handwriting, "if you're reading this, then everything has happened as I feared it would. Michael has chosen his path. But you have always seen the bigger picture. The patents are your foundation. Build something worthy of them. And remember, sometimes the greatest victory comes from letting others think they've won. Love, Dad." I touched the words gently, feeling the imprint of his pen strokes. "I understand now, Dad," I whispered. "And I won't let you down." 3 months after the will reading, I sat in my office reviewing financial reports. Michael had been busy, systematically stripping Chen Industries of everything that had made it special. But he'd left me alone in my little marketing division, exactly as Dad had predicted. "You need to see this," Sarah said, bursting into my office. She laid a tablet in front of me, showing a news article from our main competitor, Apex Technologies. "Chen Industries announces major restructuring," the headline read. Below was a photo of Michael shaking hands with James Preston, Apex's notorious CEO. "He's selling off our core divisions," Sarah said, scrolling through the article. "Everything except marketing, which he probably thinks is worthless." I smiled slightly. "Did you notice the date of the announcement?" "Next Thursday." "Why?" "Because that's exactly when we'll be ready to launch." I turned my laptop around, showing her the project I'd been working on for months. Dad's patents aren't just revolutionary, they're game changers. And thanks to Michael's negligence, we've been developing them right under his nose. The next week passed in a blur of preparation. While Michael was busy dismantling our father's legacy, I was building something new. The marketing division, now secretly restructured as Phoenix Technologies, was ready to emerge from the ashes of what Michael thought he'd destroyed. The morning of Michael's big announcement, I arrived early at Chen Industries headquarters. The lobby was buzzing with nervous employees. Everyone had heard rumors about the Apex deal. "Kat," Michael called, spotting me by the elevators. "Here to watch the fireworks?" I adjusted my blazer carefully, wouldn't miss it. The conference room was packed with board members, executives, and press. Michael stood at the podium, practically glowing with self-importance. "Today marks a new chapter for Chen Industries," he began. "Our partnership with Apex Technologies will streamline operations and maximize shareholder value." I tuned out his corporate doublespeak, watching the faces in the room. Some looked resigned, others worried. A few, the ones Michael had brought in, looked smugly satisfied. "And now," Michael continued, "I'd like to introduce James Preston, CEO of Apex Technologies." Preston approached the podium, his expensive suit failing to hide his predatory nature. "Thank you, Michael. This merger represents..." Excuse me, I interrupted, standing. Before we continue, I have an announcement of my own. Michael's smile tightened. Kat, this isn't the time. Actually, it's exactly the time. I nodded to Sarah, who started distributing folders to everyone in the room. As CEO of Phoenix Technologies, formerly known as Chen Industries Marketing Division, I'm pleased to announce our own major development. The room erupted in murmurs as people opened the folders, revealing details of our new technology and its potential impact on the industry. These patents, Preston said, flipping through the pages with growing alarm. They're revolutionary, but they belong to Chen Industries. No, I cut in. They belong to Phoenix Technologies. My father transferred them to me personally before his death, along with full development rights. Michael's face had gone from red to white. That's impossible. I have controlling interest in all Chen Industries intellectual property. In all intellectual property listed in Dad's will, I corrected him. These patents were transferred months before to what everyone thought was just the marketing division, a division you never bothered to properly investigate before making deals with Apex. I turned to address the room directly. While my brother was busy dismantling everything our father built, we were building something new. Something that will make the technology Apex wants to buy obsolete before the ink dries on their contract. The press was frantically taking notes. Board members were whispering among themselves. Preston was already on his phone, likely calling his lawyers. You can't do this, Michael hissed, grabbing my arm. I'm in charge here. Actually, I said, removing his hand. You're in charge of whatever's left of Chen Industries after your mismanagement comes to light. I gestured to Sarah, who started distributing a second set of folders. These documents show years of financial manipulation, project sabotage, and corporate theft, all under your leadership. The room fell silent as people began reading the evidence. Years of Michael's schemes, carefully documented and verified. And that's not all, I continued, my voice carrying in the silence. We also have evidence suggesting your involvement in Dad's sudden decline. The doctors are very interested in reviewing his medical records, especially the changes you made to his medication in those final days. Michael lunged for me, but my security, was faster. As they escorted him from the room, I could hear him shouting about betrayal and family loyalty. Preston tried to slip out quietly, but I called after him. Mr. Preston, you might want to hold off on any stock purchases. Things are about to get interesting. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of investigations, revelations, and restructuring. Michael was placed on administrative leave pending a criminal investigation. Apex Technologies withdrew their takeover bid, and Chen Industries' board of directors was in chaos. I watched it all unfold from my office at Phoenix Technologies, where we were preparing for our own public launch. The FBI wants to interview you again, Sarah said, bringing in my morning coffee. They have more questions about Michael's financial records. I nodded, reviewing the latest prototype reports. Our first product using Dad's patents was exceeding all expectations. Schedule it for tomorrow. And get Lisa from accounting in here. She deserves recognition for coming forward with evidence. A knock at my door interrupted us. It was Janet Chen, my father's sister and longtime board member at Chen Industries. Catherine, she said, closing the door behind her. We need to talk about the company. I gestured for her to sit. Aunt Janet had always been the family peacekeeper, trying to mediate between Michael and me even when we were kids. The board met this morning, she continued. With Michael's situation and the evidence of his mismanagement, they voted to remove him as CEO. They want you to take over Chen Industries. I sat back, thinking about my father's note. Sometimes the greatest victory comes from letting others think they've won. No, I said quietly. Janet blinked. No. But Catherine, this is what you've wanted, what you deserved. The company should have been yours from the start. Chen Industries was Dad's dream, I explained. And Michael corrupted it. But Phoenix, I gestured to the prototype designs on my desk. This is something new. Something built on Dad's principles but free from the past's shadows. The board won't accept this. The shareholders will be very interested in the partnership I'm about to propose. I pulled out a document I'd been preparing. Phoenix Technologies wants to work with Chen Industries as equals. We'll license our patents, collaborate on development, but remain independent entities. Janet studied the proposal, her expression thoughtful. You're not just protecting your father's legacy, she said finally. You're building your own. Exactly. And in doing so, I'm honoring what Dad really wanted, for both his children to find their own path. The news of Michael's arrest broke the next morning. The evidence was overwhelming. Years of financial fraud, corporate espionage, and most damning of all, medical records showing he deliberately manipulated our father's medication to keep him confused and compliant during those final days. I visited him once in jail before his trial. He sat across from me in an orange jumpsuit, his arrogance finally stripped away. Why? I asked simply. He stared at his hands. I had to prove I could run the company better than you. Dad always favored you, his brilliant daughter who understood the business like he did. I was just there. Dad loved us both, I said. He tried to protect us both in his way. You just couldn't see it. And now you've won, he said bitterly. Got everything you wanted. I stood to leave. No, Michael. I built something of my own. That's what Dad was trying to teach us all along. 6 months later, I stood on a stage at the Phoenix Technologies launch event. Our first product, a revolutionary clean energy system based on Dad's patents, was being unveiled to overwhelming acclaim. In the front row sat Aunt Janet, along with key members of both Phoenix and Chen Industries boards. The partnership between the companies had already led to groundbreaking developments. My father, I told the audience, believed that true success wasn't about winning at all costs. It was about building something meaningful, something that makes the world better. Today, we honor that belief. Later that evening, I visited Dad's grave, placing fresh flowers beside his headstone. The autumn air was crisp, carrying the scent of changing seasons. You were right, I said softly, about everything. Michael choosing his path, about me needing to find my own way. I understand now why you set things up the way you did. I placed a small model of our first Phoenix product beside the flowers. It incorporated all of his best ideas while adding something new, exactly as he taught me to do. Sarah found me there as the sun was setting. The board's waiting for our final approval on the expansion plans. I touched Dad's headstone one last time. What do you think he'd say about all this? She smiled. I think he'd say his daughter built something worthy of his legacy and then surpassed it. Walking back to my car, I thought about everything that had happened. Michael's betrayal had been painful, but it had freed me to create something new. Something that honored our father's principles while charting its own course. Phoenix Technologies wasn't just a company, it was proof that sometimes losing what you thought you wanted leads you to build something better than you imagined. Dad had known that all along. He'd given Michael the company he thought he wanted, and given me the tools to build something more. In the end, we'd both gotten exactly what we needed. As I drove home in the gathering dusk, I thought about that old photo album in Dad's study, the one with his final message. I'd moved it to my office at Phoenix, a reminder that some legacies aren't about what you inherit, but what you choose to build. And I was just getting started.